Oh, hey guys. I know. Did you come up the stairs? Yeah, me too. Via the Triceratops. Hi, Lauren. Well, we got there's Rob and Les and Paul and Matt and Keaton and Brent. No, that's great. I know. I think Jeannie will be here. Rob, do you know if the mayor's gonna be here tonight?
I don't know. I would imagine.
Yeah, I don't know either. Okay. They're having some. Oh, they're having technical. I'm lucky that I'm able to. Right.
How's it going?
I don't know that that's a huge deal. I could turn this around and get the.
I just want people to know. Yeah, and it won't let me log into locations, and I'm logged in up here. So I'll
Okay.
have somebody else.
Yeah. And of course, it's after hours, so there's no. Yeah. Definitely got a quorum. Is Sherry gonna make it? Okay. Good. Yeah. We're gonna get yelled at. Sure. Get it. Well, what they're done this, we don't want to. It's gonna give her this.
Well,
Mhm. For instance, the big guy over here, glasses in his head, red shirt, he's running for county commission. To the left. He approached me after the last get together and said, the rec center and the city need to respond to get private money and name the so he's adamant. No, I don't. Right. But I do know that we're looking into it. Because I didn't bust the gallons. Yeah, it's definitely doable. We're kind of looking into it. We'll see as far as the sponsorship. Hey, we're taking your money. Your name up there, but we're running the show. Right. You can show ribbon cutting. You can come and shake hands and some stuff. Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of businesses are beautiful, especially they don't like, for instance, they have kids playing hockey. kind of bigger, stake. If we did, then it's kind of iffy. If they're just doing it for the community. Most of them just step back and say, "Hey, we had enough things. We're going to give you a client or name. You run." And I think the other thing too is if they had the impression that it wasn't being ran well, maybe they would be buying it pretty well. Sure. Sure. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Nope. Yeah, the war in Ukraine's not helping with food because of all the grain that is growing. And it, yes, as valid as an argument as it is, it's not going to get cheaper. So you do it now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, just say that we're going to get anything. Yeah, and this is one beautiful facility. Really? Really? That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. And my daughter starts UW this fall. Going to the registered students day next Friday. Due to get an idea. I'm pretty sad. Sad, but excited. Oh, jeez. Fantastic. Yeah. Mary, there's plenty of hot seats up here. They're pre-warmed and oh, no kidding. It's like okay. Haven't heard yet. Haven't heard yet. I noticed I came through Laramie yesterday on the way back from the vet down to CSU, and a buddy of mine is running for sheriff. The signs are up all over the place. So I guess it's. Are you up this time around, or are you next? This is my first time around. I got lucky. Nobody wanted it. Gives a lot of money on advertising. Good. Good for you. Good luck. Is this your first term? Okay. I just got. I enjoyed being part of the city. So, have it being in the know and what's going on. I missed it. So, well, it's a learning process, that's for sure.
No. How you doing?
Hey, man.
Just got out of a meeting.
What meeting were you in? Oh, right. Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, they're incubators.
Yeah.
Eventually want to go on for security bank.
Good.
I'm not sure. It might be.
You're the only one that's not. You see that? Yeah. Well, it turned it down.
Are you able to hear
I just turn off my hearing aids. Everything's in my hearing aids. Oh, it's clicking me up.
Need me to mute? Hello, everybody. Let's see.
Representative too. Yeah, it would be good. Yeah. Yeah, it would, because it would coincide with his term, exactly. You could make that jump too. What's that?
You mean just the audio itself?
I do. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right, we're gonna get started. I apologize, we're a few minutes late. We still don't have video. However, those people that are watching this online can hear what's going on in the room. So just so you guys know, like any conversations that are going on, it's going to be recorded because there's things across the ceiling all the way through the room. So any comments, tonight it's about specific purpose tax proposal. We want to hear what the public has to say. We want to know what your opinions are on, the projects that we've narrowed down, what your thoughts are on the process, what your likes and dislikes are and have been and how you would like us to move forward. We potentially we're here to listen. So if there's something that, you're asking a direct question or something, we may answer, but this is for you guys to come and speak and tell us what your thoughts are. So, and we do have an updated list. We have narrowed the list down fairly considerably. And that is on the county website if you haven't had the opportunity. So when you want to come up and speak, I'll ask that you'll turn the microphone on and it'll turn from orange to green and you'll just speak into the microphone and we'll go from there. Not everybody all at once.
Uh-oh. There it goes. Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if that didn't work too. Will you introduce yourself?
Well, I'm Lyle Peterson from Green River, Wyoming. I have a small janitorial business in the area. And I'm getting pressured from every direction with fuel prices, material prices, everything. For the first time in 12 years, I've had to do an increase with my customers. I sent out letters and had to do that. And fortunately, they were all understanding and I didn't lose any people from doing that. One of the things, right at this time, I'm not opposed to a 1% tax. I'm opposed to the timing of it because I'm just being stressed every which way. Also, another thing that's come to my mind, actually one of my colleagues mentioned it to me, says that, everybody's prices are going up. And as those prices go up, the tax revenue goes up because things that might have been $1 now are $2. And so you've actually doubled your tax base right there. So I think the thing is that let's struggle through and without doing this tax. I just don't want to do it right now. The gas prices are going up. I hear people talking that by July, we're going to be $6 a gallon or more. And my employees are not going to want to come to work without some kind of a gas allowance. So, it's going to cost me a considerable amount just to even function. So right now, 1% is not on my agenda. I don't want to do that right now. So that's my opinion.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Do I turn this off? Or just leave it on for the next person?
She looks like she's headed up, so.
My name is Angela Wilson. My husband and I are here. I had not thought about it not being a great time for a tax. It probably isn't. If it does move forward, I just want to be on record that we live within the district of Jamestown, Rio Vista Water and Sewer. And we are strongly opposed for them being on the docket for a $12 million trunk line. Our property where we sit, this is the second time we've been assessed by the district and we still have no water. So I'm not sure how they can ask for more money or expect the residents of Sweetwater County to pay for a trunk line when they are not servicing the residents that they have out there. I think it's absolutely egregious, and I just want it known and on record that we are in a huge opposition for them to be even on the docket to ask for this money.
Angela, can I throw a question at you real quick?
Absolutely.
And is there anybody in here from Jamestown?
Kale's here.
From the sewer district?
Yeah, Kale.
Can you speak to that at all, or can you shed some light for us?
No problem.
Thanks, Angela, I guess.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would love to stand for them.
Sure.
Angela's an okay person, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. I serve on planning and zoning. I
Yes.
mean,
Yes, she
I
does.
put my time in.
For those of you who may not know me, my name is Cale Jasperson. I am actually a 10.5-year term director from Jamestown Rio Vista Water and Sewer District. So, yeah, I've been on there a long time. I've seen it from the very beginning until now. And we've struggled with a lot of issues out there in the Jamestown area. Primarily funding because of the small population and the large land mass. It's very difficult to make projects happen. And I sympathize with Angela. She's absolutely correct. We've got a beautiful home and they're not connected to the water distribution system yet. We are now starting to see some inroads being made out in the Covered Wagon Park area. Just about 5 years ago or so, we were successful in getting funding to extend the water distribution line out into the area of her home and as far as Gansland Ranch subdivision. Water is now becoming available in a lot of those areas, but it's still not affordable for her or the district to push it up to her house.
No, it's $80,000
Yeah, it's
for us.
an $80,000 project just for her. And there are other adjoining property owners that have to be involved. We're still struggling with cleaning up the mess that Covered Wagon Park left us in 1982. Eric Bingham can speak to that, tell you that it's not going to be resolved anytime soon, but we're making progress. The thing about this wastewater transportation line that we're talking about is there is beginning to be quite a bit of development out in the area of the new Ranch View subdivision, which is, for those of you who may not know, it's north of the golf course between there and the Gansland Ranch subdivision. I believe there's 25 or 27 housing lots that are in phase 1. I believe that phase 2 is getting ready to kick off. Am I correct, Eric?
No.
No.
Yeah.
Not anytime soon?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's still out there on the horizon.
Yeah.
But roughly, for estimating purposes, there's some 400 acres of developable property out there with 3 very large landowners. And that's going to occur. Maybe not in my lifetime, probably in Angela's, but not mine. We still have the Covered Wagon Park subdivision that is beginning to develop because of the water. Obviously, you've seen the Love's Truck Stop pop up. That happened because the water was made available. But because of the development, we're talking about more and more septic systems being installed in that area. And this is a problem that we need to get in front of, and we need to do it now because of simply nothing else than funding issues. It takes a long time to get enough money put in place to accomplish these things. So do we want to get started now, or do we want to wait until it becomes a problem? For those of you who may not be aware, the Rock Springs area, all of the special districts over here, Purple Sage, White Mountain, 10 Mile, Clearview, Simplot, Green River, Jamestown, we all get our drinking water from the Joint Powers Water Treatment Facility in Green River. Jamestown, unfortunately, is upstream. Now, do you want to wait until it becomes a problem with wastewater infiltration into the Green River, or do we want to get in front of it now? In my opinion, this is a process that we need to get in front of. and not wait. If we wait, it's going to get horribly expensive. 12 million will be a drop in the bucket if we wait another 20 years.
Al,
Yeah, go ahead, Gary.
are you talking about a sewer line or a water line?
We're talking about a sewer line. This is a sewer or wastewater. We prefer wastewater. It's a more palatable term, I guess, in the engineering world, but we're talking about a wastewater transportation line. Now, this does not include collection. This is just the transportation line to get the stuff from the Gansland Ranch area to the Green River wastewater treatment facility. Now, the immediate beneficiaries of this project will be all of that developable area in the Covered Wagon Park region, as well as Ranch View and Gansland Ranch in those areas. This line is not going to maybe longer. We will have to be tasked with developing independent collection systems that will contribute to that transportation line. So this is a long-term project. This is just the very, very beginning, and we need to get started on it. I would just as soon walk away right now and forget about the whole thing and let somebody else worry about it. But in all good conscience, we need to get started. We need to move forward with this. Lyle's absolutely correct. This is a bad time to do it, but there is never going to be a good time. There are always going to be more important projects. There are always going to be financial difficulties for those of us paying taxes. And I understand that. But the difficulties that we're seeing today, we're going to have similar difficulties 4, 5, 10 years from now. So I think that if, as a leadership, we properly educate the public, if we show them exactly where their money is going to go, I think, or at least I believe, that the people in our area in Sweetwater County are willing to invest in their communities, given enough accurate information. I'm willing to invest as long as I know where my dollars are going and what the benefits are going to be. I want my children, I want my grandchildren to be able to stay here because we've done our job and prepared a community that they're wanting or willing to live in. So are there any specific questions that anybody might have?
No, not for me. I appreciate you taking the time to kind of explain it. I just wanted to get a better picture.
So just to summarize, this project is not about necessarily just benefiting the people of Jamestown and Rio Vista. This project is about protecting the Green River. That's what this project is really about. And I think we need to get in front of it because we're going to rely on that Green River for, the foreseeable future.
So you're a yes.
I'm absolutely a yes. My board is a yes, obviously.
Your board is also.
And I believe that most of our constituents are a yes.
Angela, was you a yes?
She was a no.
Absolutely not.
You're not.
No.
Was
no.
your no based on this project alone, or was it based on the project?
The project, as the tax
The specific purpose tax, yeah. For instance, when
this
you
project
looked
in
at the
itself,
list, and you saw,
within itself.
Okay.
Correct.
so if that particular aspect wasn't a part of it, you would be.
Yes, because I don't know how this day and age, how else we are going to pay for roads and other bigger projects. I'm sure if residents in Green River and Rock Springs did not have water, there would be an uproar.
Sure.
There just would. So to do a $12 million beginning phase, that is not the end of this, to satisfy Loves, who is my direct neighbor that we had a huge opposition with. I was for that. It's good for the community. It's created jobs. But to essentially start this process to accommodate one business, and everybody can say it's not, but it is not fair to the rest of the residents of Sweetwater County.
So you're in favor of water, but not the sewer line.
I don't know how they could get sewer to all of those, but I'm sure it's possible. And like he said, it's only at this point, to one section. It isn't to everybody that's in the district.
Yeah, this is just the beginning. Keep in mind that that there are going to be future projects that we're going to have to address because of the topography of the area. This line from approximately the Green River west, where the interstate crosses the Green River, because of the elevation area, that line will be pressurized from there to the wastewater treatment facility in Green River. So without the development of additional collection systems and lift stations that can force that wastewater into that line, it's not possible. The immediate beneficiaries are going to be the Covered Wagon Park region and the Ranch View region. Those are the immediate on the foreseeable horizon. In the future, we will begin tackling those future or additional collection systems that will then tie in the Jamestown and Rio Vista residency.
Has anyone talked to Loves to help fund this?
I have. I've been in conversation with Kim Van Dyke. They are very much on board. As a caveat to this conversation, Love's wastewater treatment septic system is in trouble. Now, currently, their engineering staff is looking at developing an on-site package plant treatment facility, which still is going to incorporate or have to necessitate a discharge line into the Green River. Now, do we want a private corporation in charge of the quality of that discharge? Or do we want to place it into the hands of somebody that's answerable to the general public? There's another question that we need to have in the backs of our minds. I'm opposed to any kind of discharge into the Green River, but if there is going to be such a thing, I would prefer it to be in the hands of somebody that's accountable to me as a resident.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Angela. Appreciate it. Going once. Going twice.
My name is Jeff Levi, and I own an irrigation and landscaping company here in Sweetwater County. I'll have to agree with Lyle on the products that we use, the materials and things have doubled. Some of my products have tripled in price, and with the high price of oil going up and things like that, almost everything I use is a oil-based product, you know, your PVC and parts like that. I am getting complaints from customers because of the high prices of materials. My labor rates have stayed the same. I am opposed to the 1% tax at this time. I am not opposed to looking at it maybe in a year or two down the road when things start to settle out. And looking at the financial reports and stuff, it looks like we're starting into a recession of sorts or a deflationary period where the price of these things are going to come back down. And I think infrastructure is vitally important to the community. Okay, I want to state that emphatically. But I think that we need to use a little wisdom here, because I see on average probably 20 to 30 different people a week working on their systems and doing things like that for them and talking with them. And they seem adamantly opposed about it. I've got elderly people that are struggling to make ends meet because of not only higher taxes, but the inflation inflationary period that we're in now. And so I think our leaders of our community need to take into consideration that not everybody has a lot of money to spare. And people are struggling, and throwing a 1% tax on, or raising property taxes, or putting more, as they say, squeezing the peasants more to support the government is not a good idea at this time. And I think a year will make a big difference in holding this off for at least a year. I don't know, you guys did a special election or held a special thing for the other tax, and I know that it failed. And I think the public sentiment, if it's put on the ballot, it's going to fail again. And I'm down in the dirt Okay, I'm down with the common people, the people that are working every day for a living and trying to scratch it out, and they don't have the extra money to spend. And I think I think it's a good idea of what you guys are doing with doing it for the infrastructure and things like that. But it's going to work against you if you continue to add more burden to the people right now. We need to let things settle out. We just had the pandemic and all of that stuff with the lockdowns and all of that, and it just destroyed our economy. And our economy needs to recover before we start putting more burden on everybody. And I think it would be a measure of grace for our leadership to consider that.
What was your last name?
Ramaj,
How do you spell it?
Ramaj.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Anybody else want to come chat?
Hello, my name is Bud Smith, resident of Rock Springs. The last time that this extra penny tax came up, it was voted down. I believe I read 79% against. Why would you bring it up again this quickly? We're heading into a recession. We have inflation just through the roof. And yes, things that were $1 are now $2. So instead of 5 cents, you're collecting 10 cents. We shouldn't be adding on to the burden of people. Everybody that I've talked to is against more taxes. It's just too much on the people and we just can't handle it. Thank you.
Let me ask you a question. It's a burden now. Do you think it'll be a burden in a year or two with all the prices going up? Some projects tripling in cost, like what Kel was saying?
Yes, it will be. But there's a nice little secret in government. You guys only increase your budgets. No matter what you got over at the end of the year, I mean, the managers tell their people, go buy anything, go buy alcohol, let's go have a party. You know, we got $100,000 left. And that happens quite often. Why is it always increasing? There's no reason for it. You know, they've already increased the budget quite a bit. What is it? The Fine Arts Center? Their budget request is 600 and some % above what it was last year. You know, we need to spend our money more wisely. You know, this coming out of people's pockets. We need to start saying no to all the spending and start looking at really what we need, not Fine Arts Center, not.
What do you think we need?
The infrastructure, most definitely. But I mean, in Rock Springs right now, they're trying to do a green belt right next to a stinky drainage ditch. That we're gonna, how much money is that gonna be cleaning up every time it floods? We got that over by Global Groove, that drainage over there that floods downtown. Every time we get a flood, because there's a grate on there and it floods almost immediately. The stuff was not thought through and has not been repaired. And like I said,
that the green belt that you're talking about
on the Bitter Creek remediation.
You know, I know what you're talking about, but you realize that's not just a green belt. You realize that that is also designed for flood mitigation.
Yes, I understand that, but how much extra money is that to put a sidewalk down there? I mean, well, why? And then, like I said, and then how much money is it going to cost every time we have a flood to go down and pressure wash that sidewalk that's going to be covered and who knows what.
What if it saves somebody's home?
I'm for the remediation. I'm not for the sidewalk running down there. Who's even going to use it? You know, just using things intelligently. I am definitely for the infrastructure that we need for the city to run properly.
Okay,
but
so
there's
let's
always
say,
add-ons.
just using a nice round number, let's say that one block of street is $100 to fix right now. And we have to tax you enough extra, tax us all enough extra to pay that $100 right now. But you say, wait, So we wait 2 years to the next election to maybe bring this forward again. But now that same block is no longer going to cost $100, but it's going to cost $250. And then that tax that you're going to pay is not just going to be for 5 years, it may be a 10-year tax in order to pay for the same thing. How would you justify that?
How would I justify that? Well, a big problem is we pay taxes, and then there's a ton of middlemen in the middle that are paid before the construction company does the work, right?
Which middleman?
The government. We pay taxes to the government, then the government hires DiBernardi to do. How many middlemen are getting paid in between them? Those things need to be thought about.
Guess I have to know which middlemen are getting paid because I know that it's not me.
Well, it's just general. I understand we need roads and that's great. But yeah, there's a ton of middlemen. This engineer, like I said, the green belt, we have by the Global Groove, that plugs. I mean, I had to deal with that going in sandbagging downtown last time it flooded down there. Has anything been done about it? Nope, grade's still there, still gonna do it. That engineer that did that put that in there, I understand they didn't want people getting down there, but it plugs. The engineer, he got paid, everybody got paid, skipped off, and then downtown floods.
I think there's an important thing to remember. On a number of projects that happen around the entire county, a lot of it's paid by grants, it has no effect on the 1% sales tax. And I don't know if that's what's happening to that particular project, but we have some projects in Green River that we have been able to move forward with, and we haven't used tax dollars. We've used those
Grants.
projects.
But those are tax dollars.
Yeah, but you're paying for it anyway. You don't have any choice on
Yeah.
that. That's just all.
What are we, 30 trillion in debt?
What we need, and I don't want to sit here and argue with you because we'd be here all day. What we are seeing, especially in Green River, and I'm sure Rock Springs is the same, we're seeing projects that are doubling in price and they need to be fixed. We've got sewer lines breaking, we've got water lines that have been breaking, their old water lines. And our budget did not go up. Our budget has gone down. We're at 2009 budget. So I'm just, there's issues out there that really need to be fixed the best we can. And when I go to Salt Lake, I pay 7.5%. When I go to Cheyenne, I pay their 6 penny. When I go to Casper, I pay their 6 penny. When I go to Gillette, I pay their 6 penny. But I won't pay my own 6 penny. And so we have no complaints. If we don't get it and the streets fall apart, then there just can't be any complaints. So anyway, I don't want to sit and
won't
argue.
complain. The streets are kind of falling apart.
Yeah.
So
We don't need to sit and argue because we can be it all.
thank you.
I wanted to say just one thing, because there's a lot of confusion about the difference between the specific purpose tax and the general purpose tax. And I just want to clarify that the last time there was a specific purpose tax on the ballot was in 2012. There were 3 different questions on the ballot that year, and 2 of the 3 actually passed. And we have some great infrastructure in our community because of that. So this is not something that has been brought in front of the public. General purpose tax was a totally different effort, and it had totally different outcomes and totally different plans for what the tax dollars would be used for. So with a specific purpose, it's only specifically for these projects. They are all infrastructure projects. At this point in time, we've cut that. And so that's kind of the direction that we've gone with this process, is understanding. We did from the survey, and I don't know if you took the survey, but we heard loud and clear from the survey that our community did not want the fluff. They didn't want anything additional. They didn't want quality of life things. They wanted basic infrastructure. And so we're working through that still to try to cut down what that might look like if it does go on the ballot. And then I also wanted to point out that the county budget has also been reduced as well. Last year, we cut about 8 million from that budget. So we are working on cutting and reducing as our tax revenue is reduced over the years.
And there's one other thing that the public, I hope the public understands, and that is if there's a 6 penny tax that goes through to fix Green River's Main Street, and let's just use round numbers, $1 million, that has to go to that project. It cannot go for anything else. And I think a lot of times that is kind of misunderstood. This specific tax has to go with the project that has been approved. Can't go for anything else, nothing.
Well, and I think a lot of people, they watch these extra penny taxes go on. And then like the 5th penny, and then they were told that this is gonna come off. And then it just keeps going and going and
Gotta
going.
go after the state on that. Have nothing to do with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Chris Davis, Rock Springs, Wyoming. Sitting through all the meetings and listening to this, when we need it, I think the 6 penny works great, but before I would vote for it, I want one answer perfectly clear without any mumbo jumbo around it or behind it. We've said that 1% will generate between 17 and $22 million. Is that correct? We're at 5% now. I want to know where that other 100 million a year has gone to and why we have to wait, or why we waited till now to do infrastructure when we've had this kind of money coming in all along anyway.
I can get you some information on that.
What's your name, sir?
Gary. Well, I just wanted to get up because I think it's exactly what our city council is fearful of. First off, I think there's still a misconception of what a general purpose tax is versus a specific purpose tax. I hear that all the time. We just voted that down. Don't you get our message? Do I need to use this thing?
I think it's catching.
Oh, it's catching on. Okay. And it simply is not the case. Specific purposes specific to the project, time, amount, and I think that just is a message that we still need to get out there because I hear it continuously, and I think in discussion, seeing the proposed ballot question, I think. Would you consider 1% specific purpose tax? I think in parentheses, and I believe I sent it to the board, it should state, this is not a general purpose tax. You guys, did you get that?
Yeah, and we reported.
All right. And because I think people need to understand they're two separate ideas. General is general. And I think the voters did answer that before. It wasn't specific. They weren't sure where the monies were going to be utilized, where this is filled out by project estimates that have been brought forward by engineering departments, vendors, the whole 9 yards. So that's critical because it still exists. And the second thing is, and to Mr. Smith, I appreciate all the comments, but I think there's just some misinformation out there. Take, for example, the Fine Arts Center. The request was from $6,200 to $14,000, and actually $14,000 was pretty standard from the 2 years before, but they took a significant decrease before, so it's not up 600%, but the request this year went back to the normal, which was $14,000 from the $6,200 that the city council approved the year prior. And I think for the services provided to the entire community for the Fine Arts Center, that's a drop in the bucket for what they do. So we need to make sure that we get the right information out. And I think the loss of trust for the community is just that. I think we need to do a better job, but at the same time, the public needs to do a better job researching and asking questions and the like on what is a general purpose tax, what is a specific purpose tax, because we've always been successful with specific purpose tax. But I can tell you that Rock Springs, and I can't speak for everyone, but from the general consensus that I see is we're we're a bit nervous that we lost the trust of the voters just because of the fact that so many things are going on. It was Rock Springs before who screeched the brakes on proposing these projects last go around, just because we were going into, we were pandemic. Now we have a war. Inflation is absolutely out of bounds. And the question is, how long do we wait before we're going into a failure? And then it becomes even more expensive. And my biggest concern is, I think as elected officials, we need to decide, and I think it's our responsibility, we need to decide what projects we need to bring before the voters that we know that are close to failure. And I think that's why your team's been working on this list, trying to tweak it down to an amount that makes sense, that falls off after 5-6 years. And we can, just like last time, show the community, these are the projects that you voted for, and the taxes falling off, and maybe we wait another 10 years before we look at this again. But I can tell you, between Green River, Rock Springs, and all these other communities, we are going to see a failure point soon, to where there's a good chance we may see services minimized, or who knows, even worse. But 40-year-old infrastructure just doesn't last. I had a discussion with one of our departments today, and a sewer line that's actually broken and has been leaching into the ground for years. And we're trying to find the money to fix it. East Flat in Rock Springs, that's exactly why we went for the specific tax last time, is because we knew that entire neighborhood had clay tile pipes, and some even wooden, and we lost the bottom of those pipes, and every bit of that sewage was basically seeping into the groundwater. So what we did was dig up a section of that pipe, and we placed it on a flatbed trailer, and we parked it at the Chamber of Commerce so people could drive by and say, this is what's going on. And it's a struggle for elected officials right now. And frankly, I can tell you, it's a burnout for me, because we are where the rubber meets the road, and we see these failures coming, but there's just not a trust by the voters out there. They just look from the top down in the federal government to the municipal levels. There's no trust, because we take a bad rap on what everybody sees watching the news and everything else. Social media is a great tool. If you want to learn something, just get on there, because you're going to find some facts and figures there. Not the case. Ask your councilman, come in and look into it, attend the meetings. We're going to be close. So to get back to that, I wholeheartedly support the idea of bringing forward some projects for our voters to decide if they want to support the tax or they don't. We're not saying that we're going to support the tax. We're going to move forward with the tax. We're just saying these are the critical needs in our community. What do you want to do? I think that's what we need to do. I can't speak for the rest of our governing body, because I know there's some differing opinions. But if we don't have projects, basically we don't create jobs, we don't fix infrastructure, and eventually, and I believe Kale may have mentioned it before, it's going to get more expensive, and we're already seeing that. So just my 2 cents, and I'd like to see it go forward, but I think our whole group's nervous about what time we have to get this done, and the amounts. We're pretty much in consensus with the Rock Springs where we'd like to see it if it does go forward. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to try to help.
I think there's one thing that we need to add to what you had to say, Tim, and that is to try and answer a couple of questions is the elected officials are doing everything they can right to not waste money. Because we've been working in the last 4 or 5 years on our budgets have been reduced phenomenally.
We're working today.
We're not wasting. We're not doing what people think we're doing. That's not what's
We're
happening.
doing more work today with about $7 million less than we've had just a couple of years ago. And the city of Rock Springs just worked to try to balance in $10.5 million out just because of loss of revenues and inflation and the whole 9 yards. So basically where that comes from, and you know as well as I do, capital projects that we always take a beating of why does your budget go up? Our budget doesn't go up. Our capital projects are projects that we're saving $600,000 for a fire truck. $1 million for a sewer line replacement. What happens when we have to balance the budget? Mostly is our governing body has to sit down and we have to cut those capital projects. We have to cut that amount that we've been saving over 5 or 6 years. So the community, we can make sure that they have the protection they need, the infrastructure they need. So it's no fun. I can tell you it's very stressful for each and every one of our groups to sit down and try to balance a budget at a time when our state legislators remove the consensus funding that we all at least got. We used to have one project we could do. We just had to get together and have a consensus on what was going to happen. And all communities had one vote. Bear Oil, Granger, Wamsutter, Superior, the whole 9 yards. And usually it was divided up based on population, but we knew that didn't work. So we always would get together with the smaller communities and ask what they needed. Fire truck, you need a fire truck, you need a paved street, and made sure that they had that funding. And then we would basically decide on the rest. They're talking about direct distribution going away. I don't know how that's going to work. They took away the food tax. We had the food tax that they told us they were going to make us whole on. Gone. That funding went away. It's not a good place to be. But anyway, that might be a time. I don't know.
That's your red light.
Anyway, I appreciate what you guys do, and by all means, I think we're all nervous in what direction to go, but time is going to be critical.
Well, one other thing to add to what you're saying is that I've seen the list of projects, and it's been whittled down very much from every community, and the things that I've seen on there are needs. There's no smoking. There is just all real important.
That what I said before is it's nice to have those wants, those things that we always consider maybe quality of life, and they're a want. Maybe a new rec center. Nice when money's there to bring those nice things to our community. And quality of life issues are those things that help bring business in, and they bring families in. We all know when we have businesses come into Rock Springs, Green River, or any other community, we don't run out to Broadway and pull up a manhole cover and say, look at that new pipe that we have down there. We like to take them to the rec center, to the golf course, to whatever, to have those quality of life issues, because we know their families don't want to locate here. If the spouse took a job at maybe it's the hospital or the college or wherever it may be, we still have to retain that family. There has to be things for those people to enjoy, quality of life, and that is simply not on this list.
Mayor, I think that something I just kind of like to address is I'm not even sure that I like the term quality of life when we're referring to something outside of being able to flush my toilet and make sure everything goes where it's supposed to go. Being able to turn on my faucet and have clean drinking water. Being able to drive down Dewar Drive, or well, I won't use Dewar because that's state, but any of the streets in Rock Springs, and not busting a rim on my car from a pothole. Being able to walk down the street and not smell that smell that we get on if the breeze is just right. To me, those are also qualities of life, and the extra stuff, the fluff, as some people refer to it. Those things are nice. When you have a nice rec center or a nice events complex that you can bring, great musicians in, great, we've got I'm losing my mind here. The really cool Airstream, thing coming up here pretty soon, the high school rodeo. Those things all bring money into the community, which also helps pay for extra pennies. But
well, take a look at that. It's a very sad situation to be in, and I feel for these folks. But 100 miles to the east of us in Rollins, they're having to boil their water.
Right.
Their water lines that feed from south of the town out on a spring system were basically there were wooden lines. They failed. And that's the situation you'll be in if you don't keep up with your infrastructure. We know, just let alone streets alone, if you don't keep up with the maintenance, the overlays and the like, eventually you're gonna lose that entire infrastructure, which means you're gonna be digging that up, entire street, sidewalk, utilities, and repairing that entire street. You got to do the maintenance that needs to be done. So this community is always taking a look at the projects brought forth and has supported the idea of paying that penny on the dollar to support infrastructure projects. And my biggest fear is if we move forward with this and it's not supported, it's going to be tough to get it back. I think we all agree with that. Therefore, it's really important for us to get out and provide the information, educate, but also for the public to refrain from the social media stuff and come and ask questions. Look at the numbers, take a look of what's really going on. Set up a meeting with your counselors or your commissioners and just see the numbers, because it's not glamorous. Like I said, we're as transparent as we can possibly be, including with this, and we need to have more meetings. We need to have conversation, and we need to make a decision. But
there's one other thing that needs to be added to your comments, and that is, with this 6 penny, I hope people understand that if we go after 100 million, I'm just using that as a number, which we won't. If we did, we're only paying 80 million. The travelers driving through are paying the other 20 million.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good deal to pay for 80 million and walk away with 100.
yeah,
And so that's important that everybody needs to understand.
I totally agree. And, we're just starting in on the tourism season. If you get a reputation and people don't have those nice amenities like streets to drive on and toilets to flush and just like that, events going on, the tourists won't come, the tax base won't be here. We live our lives based on sales tax, sales and use tax. And we got to do the best we possibly can to make sure that we bring them here, because they pay a substantial portion of that. But I've spoken too much. I appreciate your time.
Got some comments. I actually have a question, because it's one that I find we need to get straight if we're going to promote this, and that is that 20% that's paid by out-of-staters, travelers, and that. I don't believe that's accurate. The numbers I saw. 30%. Pardon?
It might be 30%.
I'm thinking 8%. When I look at what we collect here, I looked at the revenue distribution and went to the tourism board and found their numbers of what they saw the tax impact was and everything else, did some calculations. It actually comes about 8 to 9%. So I want to know, and we need to know, where this 20 to 30% is coming for if we're going to push that forward as a selling point on this, because the numbers I'm getting are not even close.
Where do you get it?
Join the tourism board, the information, the tax revenue that they estimate they collect. So and I'm coming up around 8 to 9. So I think we need to really get that straight before we start pushing that as a point, because.
But even 8% is good.
Well, 8% is good, but it's not 20, 30%. And I just don't see how tourism in Sweetwater County would pay 20, 30% of the sales tax. But, so that was one. But the other, and I want to clarify, because I do think there's a lot of misconception out there. The comment of at the end of the year with budgets that we're spending money just to spend money to make our budget. And I can guarantee you and promise you that does not happen. There are times that we've asked our department heads, I'll tell you this for sure, when we see we're having a tough time in the year and things are not looking good, Dave Lansing can tell you as well, we'll ask them and request them, even though things are budgeted, come to a committee, talk to us, justify the expense, because we know we're going to be in a budget crunch. So I don't want anybody to think that just because the department gets $5 million a year, like, damn, they're going to spend $5 million a year, come hell or high water. It doesn't work that way. And I can tell you, the last 2 years, especially, each one of our department heads have taken and picked apart their budgets, and we have decreased and questioned a lot of items, and they're doing all they can to maintain the services we have that we like and expect to have. Even with that, we're going to have some issues that we're going to have to accept that we may not see the immediate service we had before and the like, because the money's just not there. So I want to clear that up because I don't want that getting out there and people thinking that we're just spending money willy-nilly. I can guarantee you the hours we spent picking through budgets and everything else, it does not happen. The other was on the 5% sales tax collected. Where's the $100 million we collect now? It's not that easy. 5% is collected now for sales tax. The state takes, I would say, and I don't have the numbers 100%. I was just on the revenue side trying to put some things together, but county as a whole, and we're talking Sweetwater County as an entity, Rock Springs, Green River, Granger, Bear Oil, Wamsutter, Superior. We're looking in 2001, about $35 million in taxes that were collected, sales tax that we got. The rest goes to the state. So the state gets a big portion of that. We get a portion of it in 2021. And again, these may not be accurate exact numbers, but it's going to give you an idea, kind of a ratio where we are. Rock Springs, $16 million, Green River, 8.5, 9 million. The county got 6.5, Bear Oil, 72,000, Granger, 95,000, Wamsutter, 308. I didn't look up Superior, but it's going to be below 100,000, I believe. So, you know, we're not collecting that 100 million. There's not $100 million pot of money that comes to all the communities in that the county each and every year. So understand how that's funded and how it's distributed in that. Now, the 1%, I do believe the specific purpose, 100% of that 1% goes back to the counties and the entities. The state does not retain any of that. So that's, pardon?
They get 1% of the 1% for admin.
They get 1% of 1%.
And it's divvied out based on population, not percentages.
Okay, I can, so they do collect some, but it's not like they do with the normal. So we do get a large portion of that 17, 18, hopefully 17, 18 million. In 2001, I said, again, it was like 16 for Rock Springs, which we look at this again, revenue for 2021 is $16 million. 12, 13 years ago, we were in the 2022, 23, 25. So that will give you a good idea of the crunch we're seeing. We've had a drastic reduction in revenue. And so there has to be some drastic cuts made, or we need to find new ways to gain that revenue. So if we look at it all in big picture and look at the history, see where the revenues have been in that. And I encourage everybody anytime, call me, ask me questions, come to meetings. If you have questions on the budget, I'll sit down with you. We'll go over whatever we need to. But just get the information. Let's all come together, know what we're basing our decisions on, and that it's accurate information. I, for one, and I haven't been silent about this, I don't think it's the right time for tax. But in order to make that decision, I need to make sure I've got proper information to make that decision. That's just ask everybody else to do the same. So, thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Anybody else come forward and chat?
Kelly, do we have anybody online, any comments? No. We did not receive any comments through the email or call-in ones either, so.
Commissioner Shinko, if you don't mind. So as a committee, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get as much information for all the individual communities as we can, find out what the priorities are, throw them into a list to present to the public. None of us want to throw a tax on anyone, but we do want people to have an option of taking a look at what each city or entity has on their list of priorities for things to make the community better in one way or another, and give them the option to vote on it. I don't know that it's the right time for a tax. You know, when this was, when the discussion for this began roughly, what, a year ago, year and a half? You know, we weren't quite in the inflation point that we are right now. We were kind of in the middle of COVID, and we knew that it kind of sucked, but you know, we weren't where we were. Gas wasn't almost $5 a gallon. Those things are obviously out of a city council or county commissioner's control. And that's unfortunate, because I do know that those extra dollars spent by all of us on things that we, a loaf of bread is twice as much now as it was, 3 years ago. And we all go to the grocery store, we all go to the gas pumps, we understand that. We also all drive on the streets, and we also turn on our water faucets and we flush our toilets. And so we wanted to, through the survey, we wanted to get an idea of what the community felt. And we heard it loud and clear. So when you look at this updated list, there is no fluff on it. It is stuff that is needed, that is going to benefit our communities. And I think that it's important that if it does make it to the ballot, that it's clear and concise. So each little checklist or box that you can check, if you say, okay, you know what, I agree. I think that I do need a new water line on my street. I'm going to pay for that. But you know what, this other thing, I'm not necessarily for that. So we're hoping to come up with a design to where there are options to where some things may be funded and some things may not be funded. We're still in the process of determining how that's going to be. It's not necessarily you pass this and everything is going to be funded. We haven't got to that point yet, but we do believe there are going to be options. So you can make it a priority for you that, for instance, Angela, I'm not trying to, poke.
No, please do, by all means.
So if the
Absolutely,
Jamestown
please do.
thing is one particular checkbox and you don't want to vote for that, you vote no for that. But if you think that that other thing is important, you vote yes for that. And I think that's going to be the best way for us as a community or for us as a committee to give the community the options and the most accurate input that they can have. Vote for what you like. It's like going to a restaurant. I like that burger, but I don't want any lettuce on it, so you can take the lettuce off. Something along those lines. I don't like lettuce on my burgers. Just ruins the point of the burger. But I'm hoping that makes sense to everybody. And there are some of us that are for the tax. There are some of us that are against the tax. There are some that are just against the idea of the tax. And I get that as well. It is, it's expensive right now. Just taking a road trip to Salt Lake is double what it used to be, 3 years ago, just based on gas and how much you could pay at a restaurant or a hotel. And that's tough. And we realize that there are people that struggle. But I do believe that everybody should have the option of what they think is important and what they don't think is important. And I don't want everyone to feel that one vote is going to fund everything. I mean, at least that's what we've been discussing. We're not at that point yet. We're still discussing, and that's why we're having meetings like this. Is there anybody in here that likes the idea of a menu list of what you could choose to pay for?
How does that look like for Bear Oil though, that doesn't have a huge population and you have more residents in Green River and Rock Springs that say no, how do you then still fund that infrastructure for Bear Oil?
Well,
That's
how
desperately needed.
how that would work is you'd take the Bear Oil project and it would be on an initiative with, say, Green River. If they have a water line problem, we have a water line problem, or Rock Springs has a water line problem, you might have those three items on the same initiative.
You would
So-
look at packaging them similarly so that folks would be able to choose, well, I don't really care about, water lines, but I do want to make sure our sewer is taken care of.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing.
Yeah, we can't lose focus on most of these smaller communities. They need help. And that's why the issue with putting things together such as infrastructure, they would have to be lumped in there. So if you voted to support infrastructure in Rock Springs or Green River, those folks,
They do need help.
They do. And then keep in mind that each and every one of these projects also creates jobs. These will all be proposals bid out for hopefully local businesses have a chance to take a look. Most of it is going to be sewer lines, water lines, streets, those kind of things. So we have to take a look at that also.
One thing I want to say is support of what Tim is saying is you coming to this meeting is invaluable for us. Because we can sit in the back and decide what we think you want. But that's not always the right thing. So when you come to meetings like this and voice your opinions, and tell us what you think is right, it makes it so much easier for us to decide how's the best way to do this? How's the most of the county going to get the most benefit out of this? And so I personally really appreciate every one of you that have come. And I appreciate every opinion, even though I might not agree with every opinion, that doesn't matter. That's not the issue. The issue is we want to know what you want. And there's been a couple counties throughout the state that has done the packaging of menus with different projects. And it's worked great because some things have passed and some things haven't passed. And by you letting us know what's important, it's easier for us to try and package it like Tim was saying, Mayor Como was saying, to get it where it's best for the county. Because whether we know it or not, we're either going to pay for it now or we're going to pay for it later. And if we pay for it later, it's not going to be fun. It's going to be. Green River had a project that we've been trying to work on, about $26 million when we first started working on it. Now it's 39 million. 38. I mean, that's 2 6-packs, 3 6-packs.
Well, and I think there should be also, there also should be some information out there that if in fact we weren't to propose these types of projects and we see a failure, there's a good indication, as Rock Springs and Green River and many other communities have done before, they're going to have to go out and get a loan. And what's going to happen there, most likely if it's water and sewer through our enterprise accounts, you're most likely going to see a rate. And that's not a good place to be. The last thing we want to do is raise rates on individuals because that's a bigger hit for those people on fixed incomes and our seniors and the like. But that's what's going to occur if we have a failure and extreme need and there are no funding opportunities to recover.
Good point. Thanks, Mayor.
Yeah.
I just wanted to thank everybody for coming tonight. We really appreciate your input. If you have things that come to your mind after this conversation, please reach out to us. Email us, call us. We would be more than happy to talk and go over anything that you may be thinking about. And then I'm sure we'll stick around and be available to chat for a few minutes after this.
One question for the committee and for the governing bodies. We have to have an approved ballot by mid-July.
Mm-hmm.
So really, we're not gonna have anything by next week. So that means 3 meetings that we'll have in order to approve the ballot. What's the timeline we're looking at now?
So I actually think we'll have a committee meeting early next week to discuss exact dates for that. So I'm not sure what day our committee meeting will be, but we talked about doing it right after this meeting. And so I think we'll have some solid dates. I would like the opportunity for us to get together, maybe come up with a few different options for proposed questions, whether that, a menu option or maybe, we do a few things on one or, there's a couple of different ways that we could go about it. And then have some discussions with all of the governing bodies to make sure that we're all on the same page, because the last thing we want to do is put something together and then have a couple, like half of us say, no, we don't like that one. And half of them said, we all just need to be on the same page in that discussion. And so I would imagine that I would like to have everything approved to go on the ballot with 1 meeting to spare. Just so that if there's discussions that need to happen or something that needs to change, we have time to do that. So. Go ahead.
Are you gonna schedule another public meeting prior to making your final decision to put it on the ballot, or how you're gonna arrange that, or will there be any more public input is I guess what I'm asking?
So we've had 2 stakeholder meetings, we've had our survey, and then we've had this public meeting. We're starting to run out of time on being able to have any more actual public meetings. However, all of us are open to input and comments and emails, and we all have meetings that we have open comments at every one of our meetings. And so there is the opportunity for whomever to come and talk at our meetings, to send us emails, to give us phone calls, to give us their opinion on, that. So. we won't have any more meetings like this, however.
I guess I should explain myself a little better. I'm not opposed to this tax. I'm not opposed to any tax, really. I want to invest in my community. I want it to be better. But I'm hypersensitive to any increase right now because I'm hammered every single, where I look, that's another increase. And, you know, I sympathize with you folks. I mean, you're going into the community, trying to get this 1% tax. And every time they turn around, that's another price increase. It's just a horrible time to even try to do it. I mean, it needs to be, I sympathize with Kale because, you know, the situation that they have out there at Jamestown, but I just don't want to be taxed anymore.
And we pulled it off of the conversation off of having it on the ballot when COVID, it was right in the middle of COVID, because we thought things were going to be much better. And we didn't want to stress out people that were losing jobs and the economy that was going down. And you couldn't get much worse than this. And guess what? It has gotten worse. And now we're having the same conversation, but the price of everything has increased. And I wish we wouldn't have pulled it off then. I really don't, because I think that, I think we had more money then and all these projects would be getting done. And we've made it through that storm, hopefully with the increase in our economy, with all of the different businesses starting up and the reboots of the Trona mines and things like that. We're going to start to see an increase around here and we have hit rock bottom and we're coming up. How can you tell that? And I understand 100% what you're saying because we don't feel it.
And as I mentioned earlier, you know, as the prices go up on everything, your tax base goes up.
But things are costing more as well. So, and we actually have a chart that we had put together. It needs to probably be updated for this last year. But it shows what our tax revenue is and what the cost of just anything is. And I will share that. If you'd like to give me your email address, I can share it with you there. I'm sure we'll probably share that just as public information as well, because that's a huge conversation that people are having. And yeah, the tax revenue actually, in comparison to our costs and inflation, it has not, it's going down. So because of our businesses. Yes, go ahead.
First thing I just complained, couldn't find this place. I came in late and left here on time and I've been, anyway, so that was the first complaint. The second is, what are you guys going to do to prioritize? Since we only have a limited amount of money, people only want to be able to have that tax for 5 years. How are you going to prioritize what you're going to spend it?
Have you seen the updated list?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so there's an updated list on the county's website. And that was put out in the press release that was put out a few days ago. So the link is actually in, if you get on Sweetwater Now, WildFor News, I believe Rocket Miner, and I believe the Star put it in there too.
I wrote a story last week, yes.
Okay, yeah, so that information is in there, but it's all under proposed specific purpose tax on the county website. And so we have cut everything outside of infrastructure from that list, and we're still whittling it down. We're not quite where we need to be, but we're still having conversations. And we also wanted to allow for this meeting. And I have a few questions on a few other projects as well. But I've gone back to all of the entities and said, where can we cut? Can you do half of a project? Can we separate this into different sections so that we can cut the costs down so that it's where it needs to be? So we're still in the middle of those conversations.
So are you prioritizing infrastructure first?
It's only infrastructure right now. Everything else has been cut.
So the county complex recreation center, and all that you guys had last time we met is
yes,
out.
it's all been cut.
So what is it you kept in?
There's roads, water lines, wastewater treatment, sewer, it's basic infrastructure.
Okay. Thank you. Ambulance?
Yeah, there's some ambulances in there still.
What about the hospital?
That's still in conversation. It's still in there. And we have the list right here if you'd like to come look at it.
Sure.
Well, I've got one more thing here. I've just been doing some research. And like I said, I'm not opposed to a 1% for infrastructure, but I also just seen my house payment go up by over $40 a month for property taxes. And right here, local governing bodies will use the assessed taxes to fund water, sewer improvements, provide law enforcement, fire protection, education, road and highway construction, libraries, and other services that benefit the community. So now we're gonna go with another 1% sales tax when my property tax just went up by $40 a month.
You should talk to the assessor's office and see what that actually looks like, bottom line. Because I'm not sure what I don't know.
I guess where I'm getting at is if my property taxes are going up, how many more times am I gonna become an asked to spend even more money on taxes when I don't even get a choice when my property taxes go up?
Right.
And that's what
None
my
of us
property
do.
taxes are supposed to go for. And if they're not going for that, I'd like to know where they're going to.
So Chris, on our county website, you go to the assessor's office, and click on your property. Oh, will come a graph. It'll show exactly where your property tax is broken up, and I can show you where that's at.
Yeah, I want to, but I mean, I'm just looking at this right here, and it specifically states infrastructure. And that's what our 1% is gonna be based on, is infrastructure. So am I getting taxed twice?
No.
But
I'll
it
show
seems
you.
that.
I'll show you. I'll show you.
I think the biggest confusion there is, most of that is,
School.
the increase in the operations and the maintenance side, but also on the county website. If you click on that
Yeah.
and go to your property specifically, as Derek said, it'll break it down every different part where this comes from. So we don't get, property
Cities don't get the property taxes. Our budget is sales tax.
sales and use.
That's how we did, that's how
But
we did.
if my house is within city limits, and I'm paying,
For the county.
right,
But
We
the,
get a county rebate.
we get a county.
Can I
I mean, I'm
ask
just
a
asking
quick
questions
question
here.
about that? What percentage of the property tax, because I know the state gets some, if I'm not correct, what percentage of the property taxes comes back into Sweetwater County? And then I know it's distributed out to the municipalities and things from there, but what percentage stays in Sweetwater County? Does anybody know that?
So our assessor, we actually have a forum next week, but I can get you in contact with Dave and he will sit down with both of you guys, Jeff and Chris, if you want to sit down. He'll tell you exactly where everything's going. A big chunk of that goes to the schools. 60% of your property tax goes to the school district. So right there, gone. It's divided by mills, but I can have them give me a call and we'll sit down and go over with you guys.
So the city gets 8 mills for property tax, and that's by the state constitution. That's the max we can get.
Right.
And it generates about $2 million a year for us.
A big revenue with sales tax for states.
right, I mean, and this is my way, I mean, if I sound harsh, I apologize.
No.
I'm just trying to figure out everything that's going on here.
Yeah.
So I know where to best base my decision.
Sure.
And even talk to other people and basing their decision.
Sure.
Absolutely.
But I'm not gonna go out and say one thing to somebody and be completely wrong without knowing the proper answer. And if this seems to be the best place to get that answer, I'm gonna ask the questions.
No, it's
Well,
good.
I think, Chris, this is exactly what needs to take place, because
Yep.
what you're seeing, and those of you that are running for an office, you need to know where these are going, because if you are successful, you're gonna be sitting down and you're having to make some tough decisions.
Right.
And it's great to have the right information and know that you don't, local government, county, city, I think we all take a bad rap based on federal government, really what we see in the waste and everything else, which is, you see the ARPA funds and the amount of billions of dollars rained down on communities. I can tell you, we get very little of that. They dangle the carrot out there, but there's some tough requirements, and most of it ends up with the federal government. But it's good to get your hands on where these monies go, because you will see that each and every one of these communities have, over the years, sat down as transparent as possible and talked about with their own department heads where to cut money, where to save money. How do we spend less while trying to create some revenue that we've been given the powers to do so? Well, the only power that we've been given to do so when sales and use tax starts to fail a city is that specific purpose tax. That's the tool the legislators told us. You can go implement this. Your voters will have to vote on it. You can decide what's important, but we only have so much cash to deal with. That's it. And what services do we want to cut? So that, I think that's a perfect example of why somebody should run for an elected position is get in there and find out what's really going on. As Eric says, you'd be shocked when you go in there and say, oh, well, 60% alone is running our school. And then you have all the districts that get their money out of it. And there's no fluff. There's nothing left over. And what's left over, and you still have bills to pay, is when you start making drastic cuts. Counties, cities, whatever, services are going to fail until sales tax for us comes back. So we try to promote sales and use tax by travel and tourism, bringing people into the community to spend money, and that's the only way we can generate sales tax.
Mayor, I think that's a good point. Is very often when the cities go to the state and say, hey, we need some money, they say, hey, we don't have it. You guys need to make this work for yourselves. And that's kind of what we're doing. We're trying to supplement what the state doesn't want.
And let me throw in a kicker to that too, is we try to plan ahead, and we may want to save a little bit for fire trucks. We know they're going to cost $500 to $1 million. So we're putting some money away year after year so we don't take a big hit. Then we go to the state and say, we need money, we can't afford what's going on. They'll look at our account and say, you got $500,000 sitting in there for savings. What do you need money for?
Well,
And so if we get punished out trying to do the thing,
there's one other thing we need to understand too, the people need to understand is sometimes we as cities are told by the feds, you will make this happen, like in Green River for our water system. We have to have it meet a certain standard, and I don't quote me on the years on this, in the next 5 to 7 years. And they're not giving us any money to do that. We have to figure out where we're going to find the money to meet what the feds are telling us we have to do.
Are there any legislators here? So at the same time.
Okay, Mayor Como, hold on. We have got 2 minutes left for this meeting. And we had a question. So I saw a hand raised. Go ahead.
I was just wondering, we have the lodging tax and we have on our visitors that come.
Yeah.
And I was wondering where the lodging tax money went to.
It goes to travel and tourism.
So then the cities and the counties, none of it. It goes to lodging and tourism, like for advertisement, stuff like that, stuff that you're talking about. Could it be repurposed out with some of our other stuff?
I don't believe so. That's legislative.
Some travel and tourism benefits from it. They
Yeah.
use for portions of their administrative costs, but primarily it's all marketing or outside.
Yeah.
But it does raise other revenue throughout and business throughout our communities. So it helps, our hotels and our restaurants and all of that. But yeah, that's a legislative thing too. Okay, do we have any additional comments? About 1 minute.
100% of the property tax stays in Sweetwater. 100%. Okay. There's about 73 bills that are assessed in the school district and college make up about 53 of those. There,
Yeah.
it breaks it down on your statement that you get every year. Yeah. What bills are paying.
Okay. Thank you guys so much for being here, for your comments, your input, your questions. Appreciate it. We will continue to move through this process. And if you have anything additional, please reach out to us.